Time now for a look through today's papers, and I'm joined by Alison Sargent. Hello to you, Alison.
Hello.
Starting with this Sunday's general elections in Italy, the country could see its first far-right government since Benito Mussolini.
Yeah, this is Giorgia Meloni, the leader of the far-right Brothers of Italy party. We see her and her right-wing and far-right coalition partners on the front page of the conservative paper Libero. You should recognize at least two of the men on the left there, Matteo Salvini, the far-right leader of the League, and former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. The headline here from Libero, which is a pro-Berlusconi newspaper, roughly translates to "The center-right united, the time is right." If the polls are correct, Meloni will not only become the first far-right prime minister since World War II, but also Italy's first ever female prime minister. Now, despite the optimism of the right and far-right coalition, La Stampa does note that they didn't quite fill up the piazza in Rome, where they held a campaign rally on Thursday. They're headlining on one of Meloni's rallying cries, "Free Italy."
Yeah, and this is Europe's third largest economy. For that reason, and many others, this is getting a lot of international attention.
I really like the headline from Politico Europe today, Veni, Vidi, Veto. I came, I saw, I vetoed, a take on the famous quote, of course, by Julius Caesar. Politico writes here that Meloni's wouldn't be Italy's first Eurosceptic government, but it would be the first with political backing in other EU capitals. They write that she's poised to join like-minded leaders in Poland and Hungary as a spoiler to EU ambitions. Now, here in France, you might be tempted to associate her with far-right Marine Le Pen, but French papers today are pointing out that Meloni is actually much closer ideologically to the very anti-immigrant Éric Zemmour. I like this cartoon on the front page of L'Opinion today. Meloni is saying, "I'm like Éric Zemmour when it comes to ideas, but Marine Le Pen when it comes to the results," which I have to say is quite a combination.
All right, well, moving on to some different results, these ones coming from the British territory of Northern Ireland. The results have come in from the most recent census, and for the first time ever, Catholics outnumber Protestants.
Yeah, very big news for Northern Ireland. Historically, of course, the more Protestant side of the island. We can take a look at Northern Ireland's more Catholic-identified paper, the Irish News. Their headline here is a quote from a nationalist politician who called this a seminal moment in modern Ireland's history. Note that he used the word Ireland and not Northern Ireland. We also read here that these results are already prompting calls for a poll on whether or not to return to a united Ireland. Across the border in Ireland, the Irish Times calls this another psychological blow for unionism. Unionists, of course, those that want Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom. The paper writes that this is really just the confirmation of a societal shift in Northern Ireland that was already being felt. Recent events like Brexit, the Irish Nationalist Party, Sinn Féin coming to power there, and even the death of the Queen all have left unionists, they say, on rather shaky ground. The Irish Independent, meanwhile, is warning people not to slide into what they call polarizing triumphalism. They point out that these numbers remain quite split, 46% Catholic, 43% Protestant, so just a 3% difference. 9% of people in Northern Ireland said they don't feel like they belong to a religion at all. So for the paper, these census results are really just a stronger reason than ever to be more open and accommodating to everyone.
Yeah, and speaking of calls for openness, protests continue in Iran, and a CNN journalist making headlines after the Iranian president refused to let her interview him without a headscarf.
Yeah, this is CNN's Christian Amanpour. She's been getting quite a lot of attention for this. She's actually on the front page of Italian paper Corriere della Sera. She tweeted out this photo you see here of herself facing the empty chair where Ibrahim Raisi would have been sitting. She said after weeks of planning, at the very last minute, Raisi's team requested that she put on a headscarf. And while she's worn one for interviews in Tehran, this was in New York, and she said, "I could not agree to this unprecedented and unexpected condition." The paper also reminds us that Amanpour herself is Iranian as well as British. She lived in Iran until the age of 11. I also want to show you, Will, some pretty powerful cartoons about these protests. The first one here is from Kathy Wilcox in the Sydney Morning Herald, a woman there using her burning hijab to set fire to a portrait of Ibrahim Raisi, showing just how much power, really, these women have. The other one is from a Turkish cartoonist, Oguz Demir. This one here went viral on Instagram. A woman letting her hair flow long and free, and you see she she's combing out the religious extremists, getting them out of her hair in every sense of that phrase.
Well, let's on a lighter note, Allison. An amazing opportunity for pastry lovers here in France.
That's right. The city of Paris's Grand Pastry Prize is looking for judges. Most of the judges will be actual pastry chefs, but this year a portion of the jury is also going to be made up of regular citizens chosen from a random draw. You have until the 31st of October to submit your name. You can do that, Will, on the Paris mayor's website. Those selected will then join the jury for a day of pastry tasting on November 24th, so make sure you're free that day. The theme this year is Parisian gardens, which I have to say sounds quite good, maybe a lot of fruity pastries.
Are you going to apply?
I want to, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be here. But I think I'm going to put my name in. You have to.
It can't hurt.
Can't miss that opportunity.
All right, Allison. Thank you very much. Allison Sargent with a look through the papers.